So we like to talk about the deportation of immigrants a lot on this channel because that is something that is a key priority of the Donald Trump administration, as they have been deporting illegal immigrants, even legal immigrants, whether that be attempted to be on green card holders, student visas. So that has been done or is in the process of being done, and of course revoking TPS status, temporary protective status, and asylum status from people and deporting them, some of them to CCOT, mind you, the El Salvadorian slave labor camp. So that is all stuff happening under the guise of America First and all this other bullshit. And at the time he's done that, he has made certain legal avenues, pretty much all legal avenues into coming to the U.S. legally, harder to do. He's ended several programs to grant TPS status or asylum status. He has shut down immigration offices across South America that were meant to assist with people wanting to come here legally. So that's all been done, and we have mass deportations of any and all immigrants, primarily Haitians, Venezuelans, Mexicans, etc. And then we started to hear rumblings of, hey, Donald Trump wants to give refugee status to white South Africans. It's like, hold on, don't you think this looks a little bit bad optically, Donald? Don't you think this could be considered like a little bit like a little racist that you're getting rid of all these brown people and taking them off the streets, sending them back to their home country, or well, that's at best, or at worst, sending them to a slave labor camp, or trying to send them to Libya or Saudi Arabia, I think was another one. Like, what is going on here? But when it comes to white South Africans, we want to give them refugee status. Okay, then. So let's read this article from The Guardian, and then we're going to look at, because all the claims is like, there's these claims that come from typically the far right. That is like, there is white genocide going on in South Africa, or there's just a lot of anti-white racism in South Africa, and all this. And I guess that's enough that the Trump administration is like, yeah, we'll take your white South African immigrants, but no one else, because what's going on in Haiti or Venezuela, that's nothing compared to what these people are facing. So let's read. A group of 49 white South Africans departed their homeland on Sunday for the United States on a private charter plane, having been offered refugee status by the Trump administration under a new program announced in February. The group, which included families and small children, was due to arrive at Dulles International Airport outside of Washington, D.C. on Monday morning, local time, according to Colin Mbisi, a spokesperson for South Africa's Transport Ministry. They are the first Afrikaners, a white minority group in South Africa, to be relocated after Donald Trump issued an executive order in February accusing South Africa's black-led government of radical discrimination against them and announcing a program to offer them relocation to the U.S. The South African government said it is completely false that Afrikaners are being persecuted. The Trump administration has fast-tracked their applications while pausing other refugee programs, halting arrivals from Afghanistan, Iraq, most of sub-Saharan Africa, and other countries in a move being challenged in court. Refugee groups have questioned why the white South Africans are being prioritized ahead of people from countries wrecked by war and natural disasters. Vetting for refugee status in the U.S. often takes years. Yeah, he's ended so many of these programs that allowed people from like Central and South American countries to come here and have asylum status or a temporary protected status while, what's going on in their country is addressed. Some countries like Venezuela, the reason they're in the state they're in is largely in part to us meddling in their affairs. They're sanctioning the shit out of them. So, yeah, this is just all really crazy to me. And he also, I remember covering a story, I think last month or the month before, he was trying to not only end a refugee program for the Venezuelans, I think Nigerians, and I want to say Haitians, and I think there's another group I'm missing. He wanted to not only end that program that granted them refugee status, He wanted to revoke their status immediately, ones that are already here. I think over 30,000 of them. Heck, it could be more. He wanted to revoke their status and immediately deport them back to their home countries. So he's doing all of that and then admitting white South Africans who, if you want to compare what they're facing compared to what Haitians or Venezuelans are facing, it's night and day. And we're going to look over some of the facts of white racism in South Africa. Let's see. The Trump administration says the South African government is pursuing racist anti-white policies through affirmative action laws and new land expropriation law. It says targets Afrikaners' land. The government says those claims are based on misinformation and there's no racism against Afrikaners and no land has been expropriated, although the contentious law has been passed and is the focus of criticism in South Africa. Trump himself falsely claimed to reporters South Africa's leaders were taking away land, they're confiscating land. As the Financial Times columnist Simon Cooper pointed out last year, several of the most influential voices around Trump are 50-something white men with formative experiences in apartheid South Africa. Elon Musk lived in apartheid South Africa until he was 17. David Sachs, the venture capitalist who has become a fundraiser for Donald Trump and a troll of Ukraine, left age 5 and grew up in South Africa, diaspora family in Tennessee. Peter Thiel, spent years of childhood in South Africa in Namibia, where his father was involved in uranium mining as a part of the apartheid regime's clandestine drive to acquire nuclear weapons. South Africa also denies U.S. claims that Afrikaners are being targeted in radically motivated attacks in some rural communities. Instead, the South African government says Afrikaners who are not descendants of Dutch and French colonial settlers are amongst the most economically privileged in the country. The first Afrikaner refugees were traveling on a flight operated by the Tulsa, Oklahoma-based charter company Omni Air International. Mabisi said they departed from Johannesburg, where they were accompanied by police officers and airport officials when they checked in. Mabisi said they would have to be vetted by police to ensure there were no criminal cases or outstanding warrants against them before being allowed to leave. The South African government said there was no justification for them being relocated, but said it wouldn't stop them and respected their freedom of choice. They are expected to be greeted at Dulles by U.S. government delegation, including the Deputy Secretary of State and officials from the Department of Health and Human Services, whose refugee office has organized their resettlement. The flight will be the first in a much larger scale relocation effort, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller told reporters on Friday. Miller said that what was happening to Afrikaners in South Africa fits the textbook definition of why the refugee program was created. But they won't say that about any of the other refugee programs, conveniently, for Venezuelans, Haitians, so many other countries that are facing real disaster. No. They're not textbook definition. We need to end those programs, and not only end those programs, we need to get rid of those people that we brought over under those programs. How can you not see a problem here? How can you not see a problem? This is persecution based on protected characteristic, in this case race. This is race-based persecution, he said. The HHS Office for Refugee Resettlement was ready to offer them support, including with housing, furniture, and other household items and expenses such as groceries, clothing, and diapers, a document obtained by the Associated Press said. The document said the relocation of Afrikaners was a stated priority of the administration. So they want to offer them housing, furniture, household items, groceries, clothing, diapers, all noble stuff that I think is perfectly reasonable for asylum seekers and refugee status people to be provided. But this is the same shit you were railing against, and misinformation, mind you, railing against the Biden administration for doing for other immigrants, like Haitians and Venezuelans, Mexicans, Nigerians, or was it Nicaraguans? I'm not sure. We'll just say not white people, because that's the convenient way to describe them and the people who are, not allowed to have refugee status anymore under the Trump administration. How do you want me to interpret this other way? Go ahead in the comments, make a defense on why these white people should come over, but all the brown people who were already here legally, they need to go. And, Haiti's fine. Hey, what do you mean? Haiti's fine, man. Send them back. They don't need TPS. Jesus, man, it's just so weird. It's so out in the open and blatant. It's not even like you have to read in between the lines or go like almost conspiracy brained. Like, this is just right there. It's right there for everyone to see. There are around 2.7 million Afrikaners among South Africa's population of 62 million, which is more than 80% black. They are only one part of the country's white minority. Many in South Africa are puzzled by claims that Afrikaners are persecuted and meet the requirements to be relocated as refugees. They are part of South Africa's everyday multiracial life, with many successful business leaders and some serving in the government as cabinet ministers and deputy ministers. Their language is widely spoken and recognized as an official language in churches and other institutions reflecting Afrikaner culture, hold prominence in almost every city and town. The Trump administration has criticized South Africa on several fronts. Trump's February executive order cuts all U.S. funding to South Africa over what it said was an anti-white stance, and also accused it of pursuing anti-American foreign policy. It cited South Africa's ties with Iran in its move to lodge a genocide case against U.S. ally Israel over the war in Gaza as examples of it taking an aggressive position towards the United States. Yeah, and in a way, everything always circles back to our ally Israel, which drives a huge part of our foreign policy and even domestic policy when you look at pro-Palestinian activists being arrested and detained and facing deportation. So let's look at some of this white racism, white genocide stuff in South Africa. I very simply prompted ChatGPT, can you concisely detail and explain claims of white racism and white genocide in South Africa and evidence for or against those claims? Claims, white genocide. So the claim, white South Africans, especially farmers, are being systemically murdered in a campaign of racial extermination, often voiced by far-right groups, some U.S. conservatives, Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump in 2018, and fringe activists in South Africa, and also Elon Musk many times. And then anti-white racism claim, post-apartheid policies, affirmative action, black economic empowerment, discriminate against whites in hiring, university admissions, and land reform. Also includes political rhetoric by figures like Julius Malema, EFF leader, which some interpret as inciting hatred towards whites. I mean, we're going to read one of his quotes here in a second. Yeah, it is straight up racist towards whites, I will say. So we're not even going to say interpretations there. I will completely give that. Julius Malema, I don't know a ton about him. He doesn't seem like a great guy, but he is the leader of one of their parties. I think it's the party that holds the third most amount of seats. So they're not the majority. They are a minority, but that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, we'll read more on that in a sec. Evidence against white genocide, farm murder stats. White farmers are attacked at a higher rate than the general population, but total numbers are low and declining. Most victims of rural violence are black South Africans. Academic studies, no credible study supports the existence of a coordinated genocide. SA, Institute of Race Relations, AGRA SA, and international human rights orgs reject the genocide narrative. Government data, stats, SA, and SAPS data shows crime affect all races, mostly driven by socioeconomic factors, not race-based targeting. UN and NGOs. No international body has classified the situation as genocide. Most watchdogs cite high general violence, not ethnic cleansing. Evidence of anti-white sentiment, racism, political speech. Leaders like Julius Malema, who we were talking about earlier, has made inflammatory remarks. We're not calling for the slaughter of white people yet. Seen by some as threatening. I would say that's pretty threatening, but luckily this guy is not in power, and he is, his party holds a relatively small number of seats compared to number 1 and 2. Affirmative action. Some whites claim exclusion from job scholarships due to race-based quotas. Critics call these policies reverse racism. Defenders say they readdress apartheid-era inequities. Hate crimes. Some attacks on white farmers involve brutal violence and racial slurs, but they are not the majority, and they are rarely shown to be racially motivated in court findings. Conclusion, there is no credible evidence of a white genocide in South Africa. Violence and crime are rampant but affect all communities, especially the black majority. Anti-white sentiment exists in some political rhetoric and policies, but institutional power still skews towards economic elites, many of whom remain white. The narrative of white genocide is often politicized or exaggerated for ideological or fundraising purposes, especially abroad. So there you have it. If you think that meets the textbook definition of refugee or asylum status, but what's going on in Haiti, it does not, or Venezuela, etc., then please give me a very good, thorough explanation on why you feel that way and why what am I missing. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below, and if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.